Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. It is day 2 of the offseason as the playoffs begin today for Major League Baseball. Once again, without your Chicago Cubs. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo. The Law is also here.
Hello.
And
Where am
Jed,
I? What's happening?
Well, Jed Hoyer's over at Wrigley Field giving his State of the Team address, which sometimes has some stuff that's worthy, sometimes stuff that's frustrating, and once again, the same is very true. Hello to everybody in the live YouTube chat. We're going to talk about that press conference, kind of hear clips from it. Marquis has put some up on Twitter for us to listen to, so we're going to listen to some of those. Shout out to Shane Newbanks, Gary Ross, Jay Andrews, everybody in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to be a diehard because that is the coolest thing to do. You get the diehard card, all the discounts. You'll get Ryan's article that comes out after this, and hopefully Ryan Herrera will join us at the end of this podcast sometime to talk about some of the questions that were asked, what's been said. Do you want to start right out of the gate? We spent yesterday kind of doing our State of the Cubs a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to start with like just how Jed began this? Because there is one thing that has bothered me. And I don't know if it's necessarily in our clips, but it's already been mentioned in the chat. Well, when talking about the struggles of the offense, I don't know why he found it necessary to talk about the way Wrigley played this year. Because Wrigley played that way for both teams that are at the ballpark. And in the same breath, he's talking about we were second in ERA at Wrigley Field this year. And it's like, yeah, okay, it was hard on your offense at Wrigley Field this year. But maybe Shota's fly balls become more home runs if the wind is blowing out. Maybe Hendricks gives up more home runs if the wind's blowing out. Maybe Tyone gives. So, I mean, you can say that's how the weather played, and yeah, it affected the offense, but it also impacted your pitching staff. And 2 teams are playing in it. I can't blame the weather for not making the playoffs. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
not even a little bit.
I am a little surprised he said that. Maybe we're taking it a little out of context.
Maybe.
Like, you can't deny the factors at Wrigley were not like we were grown to accustom. We've talked about it a little bit here at the end of the season on how they've in terms of home runs, they were a bottom 5 team or a bottom 5 ballpark. So that's not just the Cubs, but teams they've faced too, in terms of the amount of home runs that left the park this year. And I'm not saying that he should have said it or that it should be excused. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I will say that the factors at Wrigley were a lot different than what I'm accustomed to, especially whenever it gets warm in the summer. But yeah, to somewhat, I guess, give fans an opportunity to look at that and think, are you really blaming the weather for how the offense struggled? That's, I mean, to me, is not a good look.
It's pretty weird.
It's strange.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Weather impacts statistics and players' individual numbers. In game competition, both teams are playing in it, so it should not impact wins or losses. It might impact how many home runs you got out of Seiya, but it doesn't impact we won or lost because the weather's impacting and helping your pitching, and it's hurting the other team's offense and vice versa back and forth. And we saw other teams hit home runs at Wrigley Field and yada, yada, yada. Listen, the weather's been the weather in Chicago forever. That's the way, that's the world, that's life.
There's only one game from this season where I will say that the weather affected a Cubs win or loss, and it was that game we were at Wrigley, and Patrick Wisdom hit that 111 mile an hour ball that I think was like StatCast measured it would have been basically out on Waveland, but because the wind was blowing in that day, it ended up being a warning track fly ball. That's the only game or the only moment that I will, in some aspects, agree with what Jed was saying. And if we're going to pick one particular moment, that if Wisdom's ball goes out, they probably win that game. It was like the 8th inning. They were down a run or two, and they had runners on base, I believe. I don't remember. It was a heartbreaking loss. But that I'll give him that one because you hit it 111 miles an hour at the launch angle that Wisdom did that day. Fine. But you can't use that as an entire like reason to blame the offense. And again, maybe we're looking at it out of context a little bit, but he also didn't have to say it.
No, I mean,
say it.
Ohtani's still hitting 47 home runs in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah.
Juan Soto, if you sign him, isn't going to be worried about the weather. He's still going to hit home runs. Law, do you have any of those early clips? I just want to hear some of them, and then we'll react to it.
It's not even just home runs, though. Like,
I know.
There are so many times where this team just couldn't even manufacture a run. You know how many times I got heartburn from the fact that they had a guy on third base with less than 2 outs and they can't get him in? Like, this team offensively as a whole, you just look at it as a whole, they had problems trying to score runs all season.
And that's not the weather.
And I obviously, at the very top of the list when it comes to the problems with the offense, the lack of power. Absolutely. You've been on that all season. I agree with you on that. That said, especially in May and June, when this team really struggled, it wasn't just the fact that they couldn't hit home runs. They had many, many games where they had guys on base and they just couldn't get them in. They couldn't just do the little things. Right. They couldn't move a guy over. They couldn't, hit a ground ball to the right side with a man on third base in less than 2 outs in an inning. They struggled all across the board with runners in scoring position. They were at the bottom of the league in runners in scoring position for 3 months. So I don't even know where they ended at the end of the year in terms of that stat, but I know for the beginning part of the year where this team really struggled offensively, that was a big problem. And that's not just home runs.
If he wants to say the team went from 6th in runs to 12th in runs because of the weather, okay. But we also talked about how it was May and June, and I think we have some of this on tape. Like he talks about how May and June, that was what really sunk this season, right? They were so bad in May and June. And he even singled out how 3 players specifically struggled in that period, which I was surprised he named the 3 players, even though we all know 3 of those players. But he also mentioned, the bullpen was a massive problem at the same time. And again, if you're talking about Wrigley Field, the wind is howling in. It should be helping that bullpen. So don't go into the season saying the weather impacted my offense, because the weather also impacted your bullpen, which fell apart, right? Okay, here's one of the first clips we have. This is courtesy Marquis' Twitter account, Jed Hoyer at his end-of-season press conference.
No, believe me, I think we've spent way too much time trying to think about that question. Ultimately, we collectively fell into a slump in May and June that we couldn't get out of. I think in baseball, you're going to have ups and downs. That's part of the game. But that went on way too long, and we just dug ourselves a hole that was much too big. And we did it collectively. It was our offense wasn't scoring, our bullpen was struggling. It wasn't just one factor. I think it was kind of multi-factor at that point. And really, if you look at it, we got to 9 under. If you look at our records since then, we played really good baseball. I think we're like a .580 winning percentage over the last 3 months of the season. So I think that gives a lot of reason for optimism. But ultimately, we just dug ourselves a hole that was too big.
That's it. But again, it wasn't just the offense. It was the bullpen that he built that obviously was hit by some injuries. But that's it. We went in with question marks. And there are still question marks. And the chat is not, I knew the chat wasn't going to be thrilled with whatever was said here today. And I knew I wasn't going to be satisfied, because there's nothing he's not going to come out and say,
exactly,
hey, I'm going to Tom and I'm going to ask for another $100 million to try and go get Soto. I'm going to try and get Corbin Burns.
I wouldn't want him
probably not, and he's not going to say it if he could.
Right. Like, I want him to be transparent, but I don't want him to give away the hand either. So like, I think there has to be a balance there with that type of stuff. But the reason that I'm not even like mad or happy, I'm pretty much numb, or like I just don't care, because it's the same thing every year, man. Like there's no, like I said yesterday, I have no expectation for this offseason. Obviously things need to change. Obviously they need to make some moves to make this team a 90-plus win team instead of a 83 to 85 win team. So I just knew going into it that I told myself, I'm just going to listen to him talk and see if there's anything that I can take away from it that is different from years past. And for the most part, it was pretty much what I expected. He's never been transparent in the terms of how Theo Epstein was, except for, stating disappointment and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. Like I said yesterday, there's plenty of reason for this YouTube chat to be questioning the organization, questioning Jed Hoyer. When Paul Sullivan's asking him, do you feel any pressure about...
We'll get to that. We'll get to that answer.
About his job. Like, I'm sure he wasn't caught off by that being asked by Paul Sullivan of all people either. So to me, it's just it's another day that ends in Y, watching the Cubs front office act and talk.
I think it was Shane Newbanks that just put in the live YouTube chat. I looked up in the dictionary a picture of I looked up Jed Hoyer, and it was a picture of wait till next year or something of that version, right? Or did I flip it? I Googled Jed Hoyer and a picture came up saying wait till next year. I understand. I mean, I think you should be feeling the heat a little bit. I'd be curious, Law, if we ran a poll question during this show, do you expect the Cubs to make a bold move this offseason? Yes or no?
I will get that cooking momentarily.
What kind of, I think a lot of people are feeling what Cody's feeling, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing a lot of so far in the chat, that people are saying he's not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything big, nothing. They're going to have to, everybody's going to have to overperform player-wise for this team to succeed, which I didn't hear that quote, but that's what Gary said. He literally just said in the press conference. And if that's the mindset that the Chicago Cubs are going to take into every season, we're going to have way too many of these off seasons for anybody's liking. Mm-hmm. That's not – guys don't – when you have a talented team, guys should be able to play to their level and get you into the postseason. Now, they may need to overperform once you get to the postseason, some guys, but – when you play out 162 games, guys playing to their level of success that they've had in the past should be enough if you have good enough players. It should add up. We talked about yesterday, does it always add up to winning? No, not always, but it should more often than not. Your floor shouldn't be so low. There shouldn't be such a gap, a small gap between your high and your low, that if a few guys underperform, you're 6 games out of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the Chicago Cubs, not after 6 years and now 7 years without making the playoffs.
I won't say that I think they're not going to do anything. They're not that stupid. They're more competent than that. I'll give them some credit there. I just don't know how or what that is. I still think they need a starting pitcher to go at the top of the rotation to go with Imanaga and Steele. And I think that's certainly possible. I think that is a thing that they will actually attack. But as far as this offense and trying to get more runs across the board and more power on this team, that's a big question to me. And on top of the fact that your roster, the way it's constructed on the positional side, they're going to have to make a trade. And it's going to be a real bold one. A lot of discourse about trading Nico Hoerner over the last couple months. Of fans who think it needs to happen and fans who don't. It's not that I even want it to happen. It's just about the fact that he's probably the easiest one you can move and get really good value for. But who are you trading for? That's the thing. That's right. You know what I mean? So we have all offseason to talk about it and discuss, we'll do Magic Monday or whatever, Magic Wand Monday, and we'll try and manifest Vlad Jr. again, whatever it is. But to me, that's what's got to happen.
All right, we're going to have some clips coming up, but first, Cody's going to tell us about one of our great partners Game Time.
Oh, Game Time. Game Time, has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. This season, this baseball season, obviously we was at every Friday 120 game. But yeah, I went to a few other games on different days as well on weekends when I wasn't here at the studio, and I used Game Time to get there. I live a mile and a half north of the ballpark, so I'd hop on at the red line at Argyle, get off Addison. The moment I get off Addison, just pull up Game Time.
Boom.
And it was just so easy to be able to just find the cheapest ticket, because the longer you wait up until the game, usually the price goes down. That's one of the great things about Game Time. All right. The curation on Game Time Picks makes it easier to save more on not just sports, but concerts, comedy, theater. I used Game Time to go see Justin Timberlake earlier this year as well. It's just so easy. They have all-in pricing, which that feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. No one likes a bait and switch, Luke. No one likes a bait and switch. So that's one of the great features about Game Time. You got great seat views, so you especially at Wrigley with the polls across the way. Sometimes some people find themselves unlucky in that aspect, but Game Time will save you from accidentally sitting behind a pole with a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. And then they have their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is also covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. With Empire today, you get to shop at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, and quick professional installation at a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get your new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed. So competitors try to advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire's not going to promise the lowest prices, because anybody that's doing that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with 1,000 of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. They also have this great virtual flooring designer. It's a great way to see how your new floors will look in any space. It's easy. All you do is snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. And don't forget, you can shop for flooring at a big box store, but you don't know what you get. You might go out there and talk to the guy that was working in plumbing the other day, or maybe it's the lady that was working in lumber the day before that. Empire, all they do is flooring, and they service their own warranties. If an issue does come up, just call Empire. They service the warranty themselves. You don't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use the promo code CHGO. That's right. Throwing our 4 letters out there, get you $350 off. CHGO is the promo code. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. I think it was Gator Bite or Gator. Yeah, Gator Bite was talking about, come on, man, basically saying, listen, stop talking about the offense. It's the bullpen. And Gator Bite, respectfully, it is both. That's what I'm saying. This world does not have to be just black or white.
That's fair.
Okay? It can be black and white.
They definitely had a big part in a lot of losses.
That's exactly what I was saying.
At the beginning of the year.
He was blaming the wind and the weather at Wrigley Field for the offense, and I'm saying, yeah, the wind and the weather was helping the bullpen that was horrible in May and June. So how bad would it have been without the wind at your back?
Sure.
So we can't just go out and fix the weather if that's what the Cubs want to do. You know, we're not Mother Nature. We're not God. So what you can do is put better players in better positions to succeed. That's what they've got to find a way to do this offseason, and that means fixing the bullpen, and yes, also fixing the offense. So we're going to play a few more.
On top of the bullpen blowing those games, they also led baseball in one-run games.
That's right. It all goes hand in hand.
Yes.
There were a lot of ways to make up 6 games this season, and the Cubs are probably, in my opinion, actually lucky that it wasn't more.
Oh, yeah.
That it wasn't more.
They easily should have blown at least one game to the White Sox this year.
How should we – yeah, exactly. How should we do this with Jed? Should we just play Jed Hoyer roulette? And Law, you push a button, and we'll react to whatever Jed Hoyer has to say, because nothing was earth-shattering, but all of the quotes, I think, have a little bit of "this will drive you crazy."
I guess taking the larger question, when I think about our season and where we are, I'm disappointed, but optimistic. I think anytime you set a goal for yourself and you fall short of that goal, I think there's disappointment. I think from the top down this year, the expectation was to play in the playoffs, and we didn't get there. And we have to be better, to move beyond 83 and 79 2 consecutive years. We need to be better to get beyond that. But I'm really excited about next year. I think we're building from a really great foundation going forward. And we need to get back to the postseason for these fans. I think that's what the fans deserve, and we'll get there.
I saw in the live YouTube chat somebody talking about Jed Hoyer's comments in this, and he said, I think we heard the same thing last year. Not that I didn't expect to hear some of that stuff, because fans and media, we want to hear answers at the end of a season. But him saying they were in a good spot and I feel good about where we're at, Sean Caselli put in the live YouTube chat at the very beginning of the show, how can he say he feels good about where we're at? It's been 7 years since we've been in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
How can you feel good about that? I know you can feel good about the foundation that you've built, but you can't feel that's hard to swallow as a fan base when the top of the organization is telling you they feel good about where they're at, but now we got to take the next step, when they said it the year before, and when there's 5 more years behind those 2 years to tell you we didn't get there.
Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing. Again, we all said this past, like when we did season predictions, we all said it's playoffs or bust for this team.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't even optimistic for winning the World Series. It was just play October baseball this year. And the fact that you didn't do it, the fact that it's actually really fitting that this team finished 83 and 79 for the second consecutive year. Like they're not even bad. They're just mid. They are me trying to do anything at all. I'm pretty mid at a lot of things. All right. Like I don't know how
a parlay.
to.
How about that? Go
Yeah. I'm worse than mid when I'm trying to make a parlay, but it's just mediocrity. That's what it is. Right. And it does kind of feel like he's saying that he's accepting that. But another way you can look at it too, just to play it devil's advocate, is that you can also say that internally the organization is healthier. And the thing is, though, Luke, is they have to use these things that they have internally to make the team better. You know what I mean? Like
at the major league level.
At the major league level. You know what I mean? And this is why me and a handful, or not even just a handful, but a lot of fans are wondering why you did so little this past offseason to then, I guess, in some ways make us think that you'd be a little aggressive with your prospect capital. And the only players you were even, I guess, aggressive with were Pete Crow-Armstrong, Michael Busch, and that he wasn't even your own prospect until January. And then Porter Hodge and Luke Little. I might be missing another name in there. Maybe there's another reliever, but we're talking about impact players that are in your farm system that you've been hyping up to the fans the last handful of years. The fact that you didn't do enough, or you didn't do more in the offseason, especially a few days after the World Series, you hired Craig Counsell, which it felt like they were signaling that they were going to be
That's what it felt
really
like.
aggressive in the offseason. The fact that you weren't, and then you relied on a rookie first baseman to, I guess, provide that extra bat with the offense. And again, he had a great year for a rookie. but you didn't have anything proven. Like we keep saying, a lot of hope, and it's just like this is why I look at it and I'm like, what, if you weren't going to be aggressive with your prospect capital, then why didn't you do more on the trade market or in the free agent market? Maybe more so for me, the trade market, because as we know, last offseason's free agent market wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Like yesterday, we were talking about Matt Chapman. Okay. But like the way that this organization's been acting, it's like, did anyone ever have any confidence that they were going to sign Bellinger and Matt Chapman? The fact that they went over the luxury tax pretty much says that they should have, because if you're going to go over the luxury tax, you might as well keep going. But I mean, this is all like revisionist history, like we were doing yesterday. But this is why I just don't know where they're headed, like which direction they're going to choose. Jed also talked about in that press conference, like we're going to use October to try and to figure out which avenues we're going to go down.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, well, I feel like y'all should have been talking about this the last 2 months anyway. And I know you're not going to tell us what you're planning to do, which I don't want them to put it out in the public what they're going to do. But at the same time, it's like, I'm very interested to see the avenues they choose, because it's going to be tough decisions no matter what. If they legitimately are going to do something bold that could potentially put them at a 90-win mark, projection-wise, I just don't know how they're going to do it. And I don't have faith that they will actually do it, because as a lot of people in the chat have said, Jed acts scared a lot. He hasn't made that big move. The most creative or bold move he's probably made is trading for Michael Busch.
Oh, 100%. Windy City Hockey or Hawkeye, depending on how you want to say it.
It's hockey.
Hockey.
Yeah.
Hockey.
Yeah.
Windy City Hockey. Super chat $2 says, I feel like Jed has a loser mentality.
Yeah.
We have another ad break coming up in a second, but I just want to say this about the live YouTube chat, and like we're all trying to push to the same thing. Like, I think healthy discussion in the fan base is positive, just like it should be in the Cubs organization. If Jed Hoyer sees something one way and Craig Counsell sees it a different way, I think that can be a good thing sometimes. As far as building this team back, I was talking about what Gatorbite was saying earlier. What we were debating, whether it was, should it be the offense or should it be the bullpen? And the answer should be yes, right?
Yeah.
Like the answer should be yes, because I think one of the things that's dangerous, that I believe the Cubs may have fallen into this trap myself in the last offseason, is that their own manager has said it, and I will hold, it's one of the smartest things I believe he said. You cannot count, especially on young players, to repeat exactly what they just did the year before. Any player. You can't count on any player to just automatically be the same guy the next year. Now, some of them have been. Dansby eventually got close to his numbers.
Overperformed.
But with that's right.
Yeah.
But with injuries and certain things, you can't, just because something happened in 24, don't assume it's easily going to happen in 25. So while you may think the offense was good enough, I'll tell you, they didn't have a 30 home run hitter. They were 12th best in offense in the league. I don't want mid.
Yeah.
I want to look at an offense that says, this team, when the wind is blowing in or the wind is blowing out, can put big numbers on the board, and you don't have to worry about the bullpen. That doesn't mean I don't think, hey, let's go fix the bullpen, because I don't want 27 blown games or whatever the crazy number was this year. I want to see both happen. And even things that look like they don't need fixing, I want you to try and improve on them in the offseason. And that means creativity, because none of us want, as Cody said, mediocrity, because he wants something sustainable. That's what he's trying to build. Well, mediocre is pretty sustainable too, and that's not the sustainable we're looking for. We're looking for winning success. All right, we're going to talk more about it. We're going to hear more from Craig Counsell in just a second, but first we're going to tell you more about our great partners here at CHGO. Shady Rays, get ready for the season ahead. Quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by more than 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for any of your outdoor adventures. Hundreds of options to choose from. You're going to find the perfect pair to match your style. They've got them in Cubs colors if you want them. I like to wear them fishing, golfing, and as I always say, just regular old vibing, driving in the car. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with their team because they always have your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by more than 300,000 people.
It's the fall, but, outdoors stuff, you can still be outdoorsy. I mean, this Cubs season's over, right?
Hey, it's fire pit season, baby.
Yeah, like
I know it's not a solo stove ad, but it is fire pit season.
Right. And you can get on that with Rugged Road, which is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You'll never lose a drink, Luke.
Oh, good.
Ryan will never lose a drink like he always loses his Shady Rays.
Hey,
okay?
He was floating down the Guadalupe River near Austin, and he lost his Shady Rays, and he lost a drink. Wouldn't happen if he had that great cooler.
Right. Unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. They're crafted to handle the toughest environments. Their coolers are built to last, ensuring that they keep up with any adventure. The coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days, but oftentimes much longer than that. And they're versatile as well. They're perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing, like we were just talking about, and tubing, to camping and tailgating. Tailgating right now. During
That's
this
the season right there.
Absolutely. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers, reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code CHGO for 10% off.
Beautiful. Before our quick ad break there, we were talking about ways the Cubs can improve. Offense, yes. There's nobody in the lineup that another team fears. Bullpen, yes. You've got to lock down games when they're close, and you got to win some more of those than you have. Both playoff teams usually have a good bullpen, not always. They usually have a good offense. I want the Cubs to be a perennial playoff team, so I want a good offense, I want a good bullpen, and I said sometimes you got to fix things or at least tweak things that even were good this year. In this case, to me, in general, the starting rotation was a positive, right?
Yeah, it was the most consistent thing from the entire season.
Right. The starting rotation provided the power of the season presented by Illinois pork producers. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. So how might you do that? Well, you've said it all along. I want a big bat. You also want to get somebody like Corbin Burns to solidify so that maybe Shota doesn't have the same season next year. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he does have the same, now your rotation is an absolute weapon. An absolute weapon if you have somebody to go with Shota and Steele. Steele keeps showing you the same thing every season. Really, really good. His ERA is around 3 every year. That's 3 years in a row. Okay? But if you add one more big arm to that, now you start talking about perennial playoff team. You can get away with a few more games where the offense isn't quite as good or the bullpen isn't quite as good. All those things intertwine throughout the season. So we did mention the question, was it Tony Andracki or was it Sully? No, Sully. It was Sully. Sully asked Jed Hoyer how he feels going to. Does he feel a little pressure? Does he feel the hot seat? Right?
Yeah. Do we have that one yet?
I believe it's in there.
That one? Is that?
Let's see if you can find it.
Is that this one? This one, right?
Yeah, that one.
There it is.
That's it. All right.
Okay.
This is Jed Hoyer. Does he feel any pressure?
First of all, I think there's always pressure as professional sports. I think that's part of it. But no, I'm excited about next year, and I look at it as an opportunity. So I feel pressure, but I feel the pressure I always should feel, which is I'm president of the Cubs, and this is an exciting opportunity and an exciting time to be in this role, and we're in a really good position.
So, I mean, that sounds like a guy who doesn't feel a ton of pressure. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I do want.
I also feel like, what else is he going to say?
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. He's not going to come out and be like, "Yeah, I know I'm on the hot seat."
Yeah.
In fact, I might not be here next week.
It's not. I mean, that said, what the Cardinals did yesterday with how they basically announced that Chaim Bloom was going to take John Mozeliak's spot after the 2025 season. It's very weird how that's come out. Like, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the first time this has ever happened, but it's just very weird. But related to the Cubs, like it goes back to what I'm saying about he just never reveals anything. He gives you the same old talk. But I mean, he should feel some pressure if Tom cares. Okay. Jed always talks about intelligent spending. This team went over the luxury tax and missed the playoffs. If Tom is as cheap as our YouTube chat says and how we all basically feel sometimes, do you think he wants to put out a 83-win team that goes over the luxury tax?
No.
I would say no. So part of me feels like he is on the hot seat. If it was up to me, Jed would have been out of here before the trade deadline. But it was pretty obvious that after the trade deadline passed and he's still here and he made that move for Paredes and, added Jack Neely for Mark Leiter Jr., like, it was pretty obvious that he was going to be here for 2025. Like, that's why we were talking about yesterday with Chapman getting the extension and they also fired their GM or whatever. Like, it was very interesting to me. Like, I don't understand why they would let those things happen. Maybe Ryan is right. Like, maybe the organization really likes Chapman, whatever. But I think Jed getting the opportunity to do things at the deadline pretty much signaled that he was going to be here in 2025. But listen, if Jed is going to talk about intelligent spending and then go over the luxury tax and not put out a playoff team, if I'm Tom Ricketts, if I want to be as cheap as a fan base kind of thinks,
what if Cody was Tom Ricketts?
You better you got to put this team, you got to make the team better if you're going to go over the luxury tax. So I do in some aspects feel like he is on the hot seat going into this offseason.
Do you remember the old restaurant Ponderosa?
Oh, yeah, I love Ponderosa. Sure.
Okay.
Round up a nice steak.
Ponderosa's fine.
It's not
But
good.
if you're going to go out and pay $100 for a steak, you don't want that steak to taste like Ponderosa.
No, sir.
And that's what Tom Ricketts got for going over the luxury tax. If I'm looking at it through his eyes, I would say to myself, I paid for a big steak dinner at CHGO Cut, and what I got was kind of a tough sirloin at Ponderosa. Now, he also got 3 million people to come into his ballpark, and some of the high rises and high rooftops, I should say, all of those things. But you can't say he doesn't want success at all. Like people that say he doesn't care about winning. He does. It's just like anything else. To what degree? Like, what level will he go? In a perfect world, he's spending in the top 10, he probably thinks, and he's got a winning product on the field. The person he's put in charge of that is Jed Hoyer.
Right.
So I think he should feel on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I really do, because we've had 7 years. He's been here for all 7 years now. There have been 7 years without a postseason appearance. He is at the luxury tax now. We're still waiting to get back to the postseason. And they've been mediocre at best the last 2 seasons. You can say they've been close. It's been mediocre, guys.
Yeah. It's actually 5 because they did make the wild card game in 18.
Settle down.
But yeah. Well, I said
Don't let the facts get in the way of
I
it.
said 6 yesterday. I was like, God, I'm an idiot because it's actually 5.
You guys
So
just split the difference.
I'm correcting both of us here. So for 2 straight days, me and Luke have been wrong about that. So,
But we're never wrong.
but yeah, don't let the facts get in the way.
Flex
of a good
Diggs
story.
points out we paid for Gibson's and we got Pizza Hut. That's right.
Yeah. So the point is that Jed Hoyer should be on the hot seat if Tom really, as what it feels like for the fans, if we all I think a lot of fans defend Tom. I think a lot of fans, a large majority of fans are out on Tom because it feels like since 2016 he hasn't really invested. How things happened or played out after the 2018 season, being supposed to be all over the possibility of getting Bryce Harper. Instead, you signed Daniel Descalso. The fact that they haven't brought in anyone from the top of the free agent market since Jason Hayward, you know what I mean? Like, there are real reasons to be concerned about ownership and how much they care about winning. That said, the ownership did invest in a lot of things internally, improving scouting and development and things that are out in Arizona in terms of the complex and all that stuff. They have done that. That's not good enough, but I'm saying that they did do that because that was a massive problem within the organization. But now, as we were talking about in the second segment, whatever it was, like, we need to get the major league team, the thing that people care about the most, to be a playoff team on a consistent basis. And Jed just has not done that. I've said this time and time again. Jed has done a lot of good things. The farm system was in shambles when he took over for Theo. He's made it a top 10 farm system. It entered the year top 3, right? Then guys graduated. At midseason, it was down to like 9 or 10, something like, whatever. I don't care. Either way, you have like 5 or 6 guys in Iowa that are top 100 prospects. It's a great situation to be in. Your scouting and development on the minor league farm system is great. Those are a lot of good things that Jed has done. He signed Shota Imanaga. The trade for Michael Busch has seemed like it is going. Honestly, it could possibly just be a win for both the Cubs and the Dodgers. But at the end of the day, right now, it's benefiting the Cubs the most. Swanson, in terms of WAR, has been, if he's not the top shortstop from 2022 offseason or 2023 offseason, or going into the 2023 season, he has had more value than Correa, Bogarts. Trey Turner probably is the only one ahead of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's close. This season was not good for Dansby.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger, they revived his career. Whatever. There are plenty of good things that Jed has done, but at the end of the day, you come back and you're like, where are the results, though? Where is the winning, right? You hired Craig Counsell, which I still think is the best thing that they could have done in terms of fixing the manager position. You got the best manager on the market, right? But you just haven't done enough to put the team over the top in terms of talent. So, like I said yesterday, I put my hands up. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Hoyer,
sorry for going on.
No, that's all right. Hoyer also talked about, he was asked about a star player because we all know that Juan Soto is out there. There's been plenty of debate in the live YouTube chat and on talk radio. And is it even a possibility? Is it realistic? Most people around here say no because we have a track record of not doing anything. We don't even have a $200 million player yet.
Yeah.
And lots of teams have $200 million players in smaller markets than Chicago. So Jed Hoyer was asked about
the Royals, for example.
For instance, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Do we have that clip, Law? All right, let's hear Hoyer talking about a star player.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think that you guys have asked me a few times this year about do we need a star, like star players, and stars can help get through those slumps. And certainly, Cody was a top 10 MVP guy last year and felt like he played like a 5+ win player for most of the year and carried us for big stretches. And that really did help us a ton during that stretch. It's a hard thing to figure. I mean, I looked at it, like if you look at the 12 teams in the playoffs, like every team in the playoffs has a guy that had 5 or more wins this year. So there's no question that when you're looking to beat projections, when you're looking to have that excellent season, having players just outperform expectations is a big part of it. But on the flip side of that, of that group, I think like 5 of the 14 5-win players on playoff teams, only 5 of them were projected to be 5 or more win players. The rest of them just had career years. They had fantastic seasons and outperformed. I do think that's something we lacked this year. I think when you look at our season, we had a lot of guys on the team that had good years. They kind of got back to their numbers, like maybe on projection, a hair above, a hair below. No one really had that, carrying year that Cody had last year. And I do think we missed that. I think there's a number of guys on our roster that can absolutely do that going forward. And I think that's what we have to think through. Like, how do we put every guy in a position to do that? Because certainly, we can look for external things, but also like looking for like, how do we push these guys to have a 5 or 6 win season? Like, what do we need to do to put them in that position? And that's something we'll be looking at really carefully, because it may be external, it may well be internal to get that, to have that kind of year, because a lot of the guys that did that for these playoff teams weren't expected to do that either.
Before we even react to that one, can we do the other bite where he's talking about exceeding projections that Gary Ross was talking about? Because the two together lead me to believe that we are sort of looking into what might happen this offseason. Like, he might be giving us a glimpse of it.
Like, how do we create an environment where they can outperform and do better? And I think that's the time we spend on it. We have to beat projections. We have to have players outperform, because like I said, ultimately having players outperform, having players beat those projections, that's how you have the season that we want to have.
I just could not disagree more with a way of building sustained success. If you're trying to build sustained success and continuous trips to the playoffs, obviously you need young players to come up and start to exceed expectations. Star players get it done. If you want to exceed expectations, put some star players in your lineup. If you're going to count on Ian Happ exceeded expectations this year. If you're going to count on Ian Happ to become a 7-WAR player next year, or PCA to become automatically a 7-WAR player, which might happen, but it still wouldn't be enough. If you're going to count on Miguel Amaya to be a 6-WAR player next year, we're going to be sitting right back here next year. What gets you to the postseason is, I'm not even asking anymore for Shohei Ohtani for his crazy numbers. But if Soto's available and you're the Chicago Cubs, you've got to find a way to at least put yourself in the mix. You have to. You're the Cubs. You're not the Royals. Now, someday you might get your own Bobby Witt Jr. and you'll have your 6, 7, whatever WAR player. But he's still saying he wants to exceed expectations. That's great, but that is not sustained success.
Mm-hmm.
That's wishing and hoping.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I don't really know what to say. Like, it's like he's basically saying what you just said. Like,
he's basically saying you're gonna have a lot of the same guys next year.
Yeah, and like the only way that might change, it will not the only way, but the only way that it feels like how they could be a little bit more creative and with roster flexibility is if Bellinger opts out. But yeah, man, they got a lot of. If we're sitting here in spring training and a lot of this roster is basically the exact same positionally, if that is the case, if they are basically running back the same offense, then your pitching better be on a better level. I'll say that. Like, you got to fix the bullpen. Like, if you're going to run it back with the majority of the same offense, then you have to do what's necessary to have a more competent bullpen and probably another starting pitcher. That, to me, that is the only way that I think fans could have a little bit of optimism.
And I guess you can make the numbers say whatever you want them to say, but when he talks about playoff teams, well, these are today's games. Tigers, Astros, Royals, Orioles, Mets, Brewers, Braves, Padres, most of those teams have a superstar player.
Yeah.
The Tigers are getting there. They got a really hot pitcher that you could now start to consider a superstar pitcher. The Astros certainly have them. The Royals have one. The Orioles definitely have them. The Mets have them. Okay, maybe the Brewers don't have a superstar player. Adding one to your team sure might help you get closer to closing that gap they keep talking about.
I would argue the Brewers have, if not a superstar, they have stars. Like
They have
William Contreras is one of the best catchers in the game. I think that
compared to some of the other teams in the playoffs, they have the least amount of superstars.
Adames has been way better than I expected him to be this year as well. So,
All right, let's go out to our guy, Ryan Herrera.
Also, Churio is going to be a stud for a long time.
Who was there? Mr. Herrera. What do you think was the most interesting answer from Jed Hoyer in this press conference? If you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to put a quote graphic out on this one because I think this is the one.
He's going to put out 4.
He's going to put out 4 already. I know, because he's Ryan Herrera. He's above and beyond. Ryan, what was the most interesting thing he said?
I think one of the most interesting things to me is him not specifically saying Cody Bellinger is kind of opt out of his contract, but him kind of saying it a couple times, like, I know he's going to have a lot of options, right? Like, I know he's going to have a lot of options. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, feels like he's kind of like nudging it towards that way, like, like whether he's just like, right? So
yes.
I think that's pretty, again, he didn't specifically say it, but to me, it kind of felt like Cody Bellinger opting out. Like, we know, like, Cody Bellinger opting out provides more room for this team to flexibility financially, roster, construction-wise, whatever. But, for Jed to say it 2 or 3 times, like, I know he's going to have a lot of options, it kind of feels like, just so you know, Cody, like, I believe you're going to have a lot of options. Maybe you go look at them, kind of thing. I'm sure he'd be happy to have Cody Bellinger back next season, but I do think in the grand scheme of things as an organization, Cody Bellinger opting out and exploring his own options provides more options for the Cubs as a roster financially than if he decides not to opt out and stays with them next year.
I agree. That's what I was thinking when he was saying it. Like, he brought it up like 3 or 4 times about how many options Cody Bellinger was going to have, and I thought to myself, is he trying to convince Cody Bellinger to opt out? We've said before, nobody thinks Cody Bellinger is a bad player. It's just whether or not you think he's worth $18 million a season, and can you use the $18 million somewhere else, because he's anointed it. PCA, he talked about how PCA's development, right, Ryan, was one of the biggest things that happened for the Cubs this year. He's locked into center field. Well, now you're going to start moving Cody Bellinger around. And is it worth $18 million for him to be the DH or the first baseman, the right fielder, whatever it might be? Did you get the feeling that they're going to go out and make a big move this offseason? Did the Chad is a little concerned that he talked about exceeding projections, players exceeding their projections, and that's how you win?
I think I don't necessarily get that feeling, honestly, or at least like my feeling on that hasn't changed based on what Jed said today. I do think the
player, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like if I would be, I think they should do it. They obviously have the financial capabilities to do it, and again with the Cody Bellinger question, like that provides more flexibility if it does happen. We do know how the Cubs' front office's ownership operates, and so it's not. I wouldn't lean towards they would go and like give all the money to Juan Soto or anything like that. I do think he's acknowledged like stars win games. Stars provide the certainty that you have, which they don't really have that. They're like with the roster as it is now, they need players to outperform projections to be that 90-win team or whatever. I think my feeling is and has been like Jed would like to have a star, but I don't know that he'd pay up to like completely pay up to the Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani levels to go get him, which, maybe that's a fault of Jed of being a little bit more rational in his thinking or a little bit more reserved in what he wants to go out and do.
Reserve. Yeah.
I do think it's just
Yes, keeping money in reserve. Yes.
What he said in this press conference doesn't really change my view of how Jed or the rest of the front office or ownership looks at how they build the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about in 2016 how they, or when they were having their success, how they made some moves, and if you make a wild move, it does what wild. I don't understand what wild move he's talking about. Like handicapped. I didn't expect this press conference to get under my skin as much as it got under my skin, because I know
Definitely got under your skin more than mine.
I knew what he was going to say, but hearing it again at the end of the season, knowing that the playoffs are starting tonight, and they're not in it for the 6th or 7th or 40th year, whatever it feels like to you, like it got under my skin that he's talking about overperforming, and we talked about it at the beginning of the podcast, Ryan. The whole conversation talking about how Wrigley played in the weather. I would never in my life have brought up the weather and the offense, because the weather helped your pitching staff just as much as it hurt your offense at Wrigley Field. There was so much in this that just led me to believe we're going to be sitting here with 83 wins or some small variant of that again next season. I didn't expect him to come out and say he's going to sign Soto. I didn't expect him to come out and say we're going to trade big prospects, Ryan. But I did hear a lot of what I almost would describe as excuses. Am I overthinking this press conference? I don't usually overthink press conferences. I feel like this one's under my skin.
He's doing what I do.
Yeah,
it's under my skin.
So, Cody or Luke Del Stucco over there.
I've had a lot of caffeine today, guys. A lot of caffeine.
It's not even that I don't disagree with what Luke's saying. It's just like I have no expectations. Like I said yesterday,
yes, you're dead inside.
I'm dead inside.
Cody's dead inside. Am I
until
overreacting?
Until further notice, I'm.
I think really taking anything from these kind of press conferences where there's a lot of front office speak is trying to make more than just words, right? Surface level stuff. I think it's totally fair to not expect anything. I think it's totally fair that if you get to March and nothing's happened, then you should be disappointed and frustrated and outraged as a fan. I think for me personally, it's like, again, I don't take a whole lot from these press conferences because you kind of go in knowing what they're going to say. It's about what the hell do they do in the next 3 to 4 months? What are they going into spring training with? I think that's when being outraged is more of a fair thing. Cause I just, me personally, I just don't take a whole lot from these press conferences because we a lot of the answers a lot of the honestly questions have already been asked throughout the year and answered. Like there's not a whole lot of new information that you get from these end of season stuff outside of like, we're disappointed. It's a disappointment of a season, whatever else is said, right? Like it's not a whole lot of new information. So I think it's definitely a point where for me, if I'm a fan, I'm waiting till February to get pissed off because they didn't do anything. I think that's kind of where I look at it.
The calming voice of Ryan Herrera. Where can you get that? Well, you can always get it 24/7, 365 if you're a CHGO diehard. Is there any better way to go into this offseason right now than renewing your diehard membership or becoming a new diehard? Because, listen, I hope there are big moves this offseason. If there are big moves, the place to find out about them, diehard status. Ryan's going to have a great article out this afternoon. Tomorrow, he's always got you coming with the newsletter that comes out once a week. Got to be a diehard to get that newsletter, right? Of course, it comes with the discounts, which are perks. Cody's wearing the swag today. Ryan's wearing the swag today. We got a lot of great merch that you can look at, and you get 20% off the merch all the time, every day, every year, yada, yada, yada. The events come at 20%. If you were going to London, you'd be looking at 20%. If you were going to a Bears takeover, you'd be looking at 20%. If you were looking at a Bears tailgate, you'd be looking at 20% off. And, of course, I've mentioned the diehard card. I asked Cody to take a diehard card to Sammy Sosa because I thought Sammy could maybe use it and show it to Tom Ricketts and say, let me back into the ballpark. Look, I got the diehard card. I'm exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
blow a kiss and show the diehard card. But now I'm starting to wonder if we need to send Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts a diehard card.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it's okay. It's okay to be bold.
Yeah.
It's okay to go ahead and go after Soto and do something that you're not used to doing. Don't worry about a $200 million player. Let's jump to 600. Seems unreasonable, but it isn't. Right?
Yeah.
It isn't, because it fixes a lot of things on this team. Diehard card is the way to go. Nobody would ever tell you they regretted their diehard membership. And you can get all that stuff at allcitynetwork.com, the new the merch, we had
store.allcitynetwork.com is the merch.
store.allcitynetwork.com.
Or of course at allchgo.com still.
Yeah.
Thanks, Law. I appreciate that.
I'm here for you.
We've been having a great conversation with Ryan, and in part while doing that, I've been reading our YouTube chat, and it's.
Oh,
I think we've reached new levels of crazy. So credit to everyone.
Let's all be nice to each other.
I did have to put a couple people on timeout.
Yeah.
Credit to you.
It was a lot of. There was some arguing going on.
Yeah.
See, this is what losing does to you. It makes us all on edge, and you throw in a little caffeine.
Yeah.
And even I get a little. Most people would call me pretty right down the middle on most things. Nobody's ever said Luke Stuckmeyer's bold.
No.
Right? You never looked at me and
That's
said,
why everyone
that's
yells
the
at me
boldest
most.
guy.
Yeah. Most people.
Cody
yell at
gets
me the
that.
most.
Cody gets yelled at. But even this got under my skin a little bit.
So
go ahead.
I think what I was getting at, though, is that whether you talk about certain players on this team, and this is relation to the YouTube chat, it's like, dude, you cannot tell me on this team that positionally that they don't have good players. They have good players. That doesn't mean they're stars, doesn't mean they're superstars. They have good players. And unfortunately, it's not led to a lot of winning. And so they have to find a way to shake up the roster via the trade market, most likely, to get to that 90-win threshold. It's really that simple. Now, when I say it's that simple, it's not simple, because some of them have no trade clauses, and some of them, maybe they had down years compared to last, but they still had, a decent season. Because if they didn't, then this team probably didn't even win 83 games. All right. So I guess what I'm saying in response to a lot of the comments in the YouTube chat is that, a lot of players that everyone complains about, they still, they did have decent seasons. It's just that they don't have that one guy that puts them over the top, man. And that's what Luke's talking about with whether it's Juan Soto or whoever. I have
ghosts. Ian Happ can't be your home run leader.
Exactly.
He can't be your home run leader if you're if you're contending for a championship. Ian Happ's not your home run leader. Ryan, how did he address the coaching changes yesterday? I didn't see. I would have guessed that Willie Harris would have been in more trouble than Mike Napoli, but I was wrong.
Yeah, I think he said that, obviously with Craig coming in as late as he did last year, it would be, I don't remember the word he used, but basically it was there was gonna, as if there's always coaching turnover every year, whether that's guys leaving for promotions elsewhere, whatever it is that there usually is, but especially with Craig having come in as late as he did last season, pretty much maintaining the coaching staff that David Ross had, except for a couple guys that were already gone previously. It was kind of to be expected that some changes would be made by Craig going into this offseason and going into next year. As far as Willie Harris, he didn't get into specifics with coaches, of course, but he did. He talked about the strength and conditioning staff and making changes there, talking about how just basically maybe in a sense philosophy changes or philosophy differences, or just the way they think about things, wanting to make changes there. And maybe that helps with the injury issue that we saw come up with the Cubs a lot this season. No one knows for sure until it actually happens, but that's probably a thought there. And then asked about, are there any more coaching changes I'd like to come? Jed said basically no, they're not expecting any more coaching changes, but with obviously teams still in the playoffs, with whatever comes from there. Maybe there's candidates from those teams that they may want to interview, or candidates from the Cubs themselves that other teams may want to interview. So some coaching changes may still happen, but as far as where they're at right now, like nothing planned as far as more changes, I don't think.
A lot of fans were pretty surprised about Napoli, that's for sure. But I don't think anyone really cared about the rest of them. I am excited to see, and this is nothing against them.
It's true.
But it's true. I the only thing about the changes that I am excited about is like strength and conditioning, because like that clearly was an issue in terms of health on this team. So
yeah, I can't blame the bullpen coach for the bullpen woes necessarily, but if you want to change the bullpen coach that you
did that last year too,
that you just brought in, okay, that's all right, fine, whatever.
Let Craig do it. Like, that's why you hired him.
All right, Ryan's going to be back here tomorrow. We're back here again at 11:30. We'll talk more Cubs off season. We'll start to get ready here to do our report cards, handing out grades. I think we'll probably dissect this a little bit more tomorrow as well. There's a lot more. We'll go through some more quotes from Jed Hoyer and what may or may not been said. I think we can sum this up today, and Ryan, in one thing, we can all hope that the weather pushes the Cubs to a playoff appearance next season. That's the one thing we can all say. Hopefully the weather, Mother Nature, will improve the Cubs in the offseason. That's one thing we're all hoping for. Thanks for watching. Right? Just got to get the weather right.
It'd be warm. It'd be warmer up in the press box when the wind's not blowing in. I'll say that.
Ryan would write better articles if he had warmer weather in the press box.
If you want the W to fly in the wind, you need a little.
More wind going the other way, flying out,
whichever way during the Cubs.
How do we make sure that happens? I have no idea. But
well, I used to do the weather, but I'd never created it like Tom Skilling.
I guess we'll do what Jed Hoyer's done for the last handful of years. Just hope that it happens.
All right, thanks for watching. Back here at 11:30 tomorrow, and don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.